Hello, hello, hello there, everyone. Patricia Hayes here. So glad to be here for today's coffee time career chat. I know you thought that I wasn't going, but I told you we are going full steam ahead until December hits, and then you get to visit the video vault. So be prepared. You will get your coffee chats live this week, as well as possibly, I guess, next Monday, since that's technically November. And then we will be on break from lives, but not on break from coffee time, because I have already pre-selected some of the great goodies from this year to put on repeat for you to share with you throughout the month of December. So you still get to stay connected through coffee time, and then all some of the other goodies that I'll talk about later. But for those of you who are joining for the first time, my name is Patricia Hayes. I am an executive advisor, career empowerment coach, and authentic networking strategist. And that means that I love being the brains behind getting people to the next level of what they want to do and be in their lives and their careers. I thoroughly enjoy helping professionals and executives and entrepreneurs to up level in their professional careers or their businesses, and to make sure that they're doing it in a way that's sustainable, where they're leveraging the power of their professional network, and so that they can do it authentically and with purpose. So that said, we are continuing with the professional development kind of series, since this is National Career Development Month, and we are coming to the end of this week. Another great goodie, in case you've missed it, on LinkedIn and Instagram, I've been running the Walk in Your Strength series. Go check it out. It has been a free series that I just put out there, looking at maybe pulling it back as a challenge in the future again. But right now, you get a little taste of that greatness. And I believe today will be the last day, will be day 5. So go back on LinkedIn and Instagram to go check it out. Tell me what you think. And hope that it will be helpful to you as we round out the end of this year. And it's so appropriate that this month is National Career Development Month, because we know that as we get to closer to the end of the year and the beginning of a new year, that's really historically when people kind of start doing that. I won't say full reflection, but a reflection of how they want to do something different, how they want to be different, where they want to be in the new year when it comes to their work and their life and whatever. So it's really quite timely to be having these conversations, since this is that natural point at which people do that anyways. Now, those of you who know me know that I always say you can make a transition at any point in the year. It does not have to be based on the calendar year. If you wait for the calendar year, you're making a grave mistake, because you are losing time on where you could be next. So I want you to think about it in that way. All right. Little coffee here with my brand new mug. Did y'all see? I christened it this weekend. And in case you can't see it clearly, it says, "Please don't confuse your Google search with my law degree." Love it. And I have a very dear friend who made sure I got one. So thank you. So that said, last week we started the conversation about networking through career transitions. Substitute career with whatever you want, professional, business, whatever that thing. But the point is where you are as a professional, with your livelihood, with the work that you do, and you're facing a transition point. And so last week talked about why bother, right? So go check that one out. We went through some of the things of why bother even continuing to think about it, or going through what seems like the motions. And it's very important that you do so, because it does matter, right? You have to stay connected to be sane, to keep your sanity, to help you explore those unseen opportunities, and to refresh those relevant relationships. So those are the quick little tips that we shared last week. Go back and check out the full thing. This week, we're talking about what you learn as you network through those career transitions. And this is the place where people most often would think I would have started, but I realized that mentally and emotionally, a lot of us need to be need to be reminded of why we're even bothering to do some of this stuff to begin with when you're going through that transition point. So that's why we started there in part one of this section. Now, today we're talking about what you learn as you go through these career transitions and why you need to kind of be reminded of it as you are beginning it, in the middle of it, or at the end of it, wherever you are in the cycle. And the first thing is that one of the things you can learn is where your strengths and gaps are in your network. And this is really, really important. It's so fascinating every time I come across or get engaged with a client, a former client, a colleague who is trying to do something and they realize, oh my gosh, I have not been keeping up with people. It's just that simple. It's nothing fancy. We're not talking about, rolling into happy hours all fresh and new. We're not talking about that. We're just simply talking about keeping up and maintaining your relationships. And when you're going through a transition, this is when it becomes really, really clear where your strengths are in your network and where your gaps are. I remember working with one client. We were doing an intensive and who was trying to make a significant transition and needed some help, like laying the groundwork, figuring out where it was she was and what she needed to do. And the thing was that she realized is that there were people in her network who could help her, but she had literally, because of some toxic stuff that had gone on in the previous workplace and all that, that she had literally just like kind of cut everybody off, even the good people, right? And we don't want to cut off the good people. Let's remember that, especially during a transition. Don't cut off the good people, right? And that's our tendency because what we're really trying to do is get away from the entire situation. And sometimes I have been there, I get it, having experienced it myself, that you just want to get away from all of that. Whatever it was a bad situation, it turned toxic, it was not a healthy work environment or whatever. Or maybe it's just, it wasn't even that bad, but it's just like you just know that you needed a shift. And so you want to kind of walk away from that. Here's the thing. Here's why that is dangerous. That is dangerous because you are presuming that everyone that's there now will stay there forever. And that is not the case. Just like you are looking to make a transition, to make a move, to up level, to shift, there are other people doing the same thing right now. I guarantee it. But you just don't know because they're not sharing, you're not talking, or whatever. And yes, you don't go share everything with everybody. But what will happen in the future is once you are a little bit more removed, you've got some history and some time behind you, you will need to be able to reconnect with some of those people that you did have a good relationship with, that wasn't toxic, that wasn't part of the negative reasons why you left or whatever. So this is the reason why you don't cut off the good people. You may step away, but just stay in touch, even if it's as simple as, dropping a note. You know how I love a handwritten note. Dropping a note, sending a text, dropping an email saying, hey, just, keeping up, checking in, let me know when you're available for coffee. Even if they don't respond, you have made the outreach, because I guarantee you it will circle back around and you will need to reach out to those people. And that was exactly what my client experienced, right? And so actually part of our recognizing the people she need to reach out to, that was the easy part. That was the easy part. The difficult part was in convincing her to reach back out to them. That is where we spend our time, and understanding, because we carry guilt. We carry like, oh, they're going to be like, where does she come from? Who does she think she? Most of the time, people are not doing that. Okay. So, especially if you're reaching out authentically and purposefully, right? By acknowledging right up front, hey, I know I had not kept up. My apologies. I'm trying to make some transitions. I would love to have a chat with you if that's possible. Like it can be as simple as that. And when I tell people this, they're like, are you sure? I'm like, yeah, it really can be. And for this particular client, after I talked her back from the ledge, and said, just do it. I promise it will pay off. Sure enough, that person she reached out to was like, oh my gosh, I've been wondering where you were. I love, yeah, absolutely. Let's get on the phone. Let's talk about it. And then what happened? Then what happened? Oh my gosh, she got her connected and she ended up in the organization that she was looking to move to. Now, I'm leaving out a bunch of details, but it literally happened that way because she decided to go ahead and reach out to one person that she had not kept good contact with, but recognized that that gap existed and that this person could be really crucial to moving ahead to the next thing that she wanted to do. Okay. So, remember what you can learn during this transition. And it's a great time of the year to take a look at that. Where are the strengths in your network? Where are the gaps? And what do you need to do in order to fill those gaps or to manage those strength areas? Okay. The second thing that you can learn during this transition time is where you are overthinking and underestimating yourself. This is really important. Hello, classic overthinker right here. And it's so true where we are up here thinking, oh, they're too busy. They won't remember me. They will question what are my motives, all of that stuff, right? So this is a lot of extra weight we're carrying around when it comes to building out our relationships, and especially during times of transition. Our brains will go into overdrive, creating reasons why you should not reach out to someone. And we have to step by step overcome that. Okay. Because the majority of time, it's not true. And even if one of those factors are true, they can be overcome. That's the bottom line. They can be overcome. It may be as simple as saying, hey, just like I said a second ago, I'm first, my apologies. I haven't reached out in a while and I really would love to reconnect. It could be as simple as that. Okay. Um, so look at where you're overthinking things and where you're underestimating. The flip side of that is just as powerful. I know I've experienced this and I've listened to some folks who told me where they were like, oh, I'm not at that level, or they're going to be expecting something more. And then when they actually connected, reached out, did the thing, they were actually overwhelmed by the fact that people were like, oh my gosh, we're so honored that you are here. Or we're so glad you reached out. We didn't think that you would be interested. I mean, all kinds of things happen. So do not underestimate where you are in your marketplace, where you stand with your colleagues, okay, where you stand with your bosses or your fellow entrepreneurs, whatever it may be. Don't underestimate where you are. It doesn't mean you have to go running around being braggadocious or whatever. We're not saying that, but it really does mean that you can be more confident than probably what you're projecting. Right? Your confidence level can probably be a little bit higher. It definitely can be a little bit higher because you have more weight than you realize. That's really the truth. Most of the time, you have more weight than you realize, where you are and with those people. I know this happens to me several times with folks that I'm like, well, I don't know. And then I reach out to them. They're like, oh my gosh, I am so honored that you reached out to ask me this. Or I can't believe that you're checking in with me, whatever. And I'm like, what? So just think about that. Those are pleasant surprises and they are confidence boosters. And sometimes we have to give that confidence boost to ourselves. That's really what I'm saying, right? Are you going to boost your own confidence? Because sometimes that's what you have to do. Everybody's not always um they're not always there when you need that boost. And so you have to recognize it for yourself. So here's one of the exercises that I often do and recommend to people is to go take a little quiet time, grab a journal, notebook, whatever. And I want you to write down the top 5 times when you really had something you're like, I am, I am the jam. Like I am it. Those 5 times when you were most confident about the work that you did, that you were excited about a project. What are your 5 greatest accomplishments? They do not have to be big. This is not about big impact. This is about recognizing when you had an impact, um, and you didn't realize it, right? When someone reached out, say, "Hey, can you come do this?" And you're like, "Wow, I didn't even realize I was on that radar." And they're like, "Yeah, absolutely." Okay. Or it could be. I mean, I know there are certain things in my career that will always, always, always be top of mind for me as far as my professional experiences. One of them being when I worked at one of the state agencies, and the situation that I was faced with, and it was pretty dramatic, pretty just crazy, dysfunctional, and stepping into it knowing I had help and support, but also with the confidence of really overcoming some major problems in a really intense situation and in a short timeline. Always, always going to be my top of my list. All right. And there are other situations like that. These are the things that we have to do, because when you look at those situations, are you looking at them just because you're like, okay, well, this is to say, yay, rah, rah, me, I'm great. No, 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 no. Most of the time, you were not able to accomplish those things by yourself. Most of the time, what that meant is there was always somebody in your corner. You had a support team. You had, what I call your fan club, people who were there to support you. When those situations arise, think about that. Now it's also the time to think about who was in your corner to make that happen. Who helped you? Was it your coworkers? Was it your team? Were there mentors or sponsors behind the scenes that were helping to push? And those are the things that we're really looking at, right? And you learn and remember that I got this because I have people who I can go back to check in, to get additional support, to get feedback from, right? And who will help us to minimize the overthinking part, and to reset underestimating ourselves and get back on track so that we can complete this transition successfully. All right. So that's a whole lot in and of itself. I may have to go back and dive into that one. I kind of like that. So we may have to go back and do a little bit more of a dive into that because I really like where that went. All right. Here's the third thing about what you learn when you're networking through your career transitions. And that is you can learn how valued your skills and knowledge are in the marketplace. This is a little tangent from the underestimating, right? Or overthinking, but it's important to pull it out on its own because a lot of times we continue to undervalue who we know, what we know, our skill set, not just in our bubble, but in the marketplace at large. Okay. And especially in a transition, if you're making a significant transition, what a lot of people fail to do is they fail to identify those transferable skills, the knowledge, whatever that thing is, whatever those things are. They listen and they hear people say it, but they don't know how to do it. They don't know how to bring it to fruition, which is one of the things I work with people on, right? Because they're like, oh, but this doesn't relate to that at all. I'm like, but you know how to make crucial decisions in a short period of time, right? They're like, well, yeah. And I'm like, okay, that's a transferable skill. Like, you don't have to know exactly how to do the next thing as long as you had a skill that helps you to be able to move forward and you can learn it and adapt along the way. Women, I love us. We are the worst about this, right? We are very much, and we hear this all the time, but that's because the research supports it. We are often the ones, it's like if there are 10, requirements for a position, that we have to fill all 10, or we're like, well, I don't know, I don't think I'm qualified for that. Whereas a man could have half of it and be like, yeah, let me go for it, right? When a lot of times we as women may be even overqualified, but we're definitely underestimating our value. And so when we do that, one of the things we have to do during this career transition, during this business transition, is not just look at the obvious of where we 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Well, yes, I know how to do that, so I can move forward. But no, it's much more. It's not as direct. It's much more. The word esoteric is coming to mind, but that's not the word I'm looking for. But it's much more. It's not as concrete. There we go. How we do that. It's not as concrete as being able to say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Rather, it's, hey, I have the ability to do this. And a lot of times, what people have to do, and this is work I've done with people, is let's talk through, your top 5 work projects that you're really, great at, or that you're most proud of. Let's talk about what those skills were that you utilized during those things. What are some of the things that come up during your evaluations, or that even your colleagues just say, oh my gosh, thank you so much, that was so awesome, you were great at, right? When you identify what those things are, those are the things that you then take, and you do the homework, you do the process of transferring them to the new position, the new career, that you're seeking, the new business opportunity. Okay. Because a lot of times, what we're trying to get to, no, we don't have experience in that. It's okay. That's the whole point. That's the point of an up level. You don't have the experience, but you have the desire, you have the interest, and there's something hopefully that you have here as a foundation upon which to build so that you can go into that next thing empowered and with the knowledge that you can grow into whatever it is that you need to do. All right. If we all just went to jobs that we already knew how to do, first of all, it would be absolutely boring. And number two, things people would leave even faster than what they're leaving right now. Right. Right now, the whole great resignation is all about people realizing this is not the life for me anymore. They recognize that, as a result of the pandemic, that they can live life differently. They can work differently. And when that happens, that is so, so important. Hello there, Jacqueline. So here's the reality is that you have to do the work or get help. Hello, a coach. You have to do the work to help you identify those skills and that knowledge that brings you value, not just brings you value, but brings you to the forefront in your industry, that you can offer and that you can learn and grow from. Okay. And that you have to offer to the industry, to the folks out there. These are the things that you look for, that you have to do that work. Here's the problem. Most times people they don't do the work. Transitions are challenging, even the best ones, even when it's oh, here's the dream job coming your way. And you're like, oh, how is that? And then when all of a sudden you have these things that come up and you're like, where did that come from? Or how am I supposed to handle that? Right. So just because it's a dream situation doesn't mean there aren't challenges, that there aren't mindset shifts, that there aren't things that you need to learn in order to prepare yourself for that transition. There are. Okay. Too many times we just focus on just the, oh, this was such a horrible thing and I got to get out. Either way, it's bad. You need to do the work to figure out what it is you can learn from the process, who it is you need to reconnect with, what you need to strengthen, how you can, get your skills and knowledge to the place that it needs to be, and dipping into your network and your professional relationships for that support, for that, constructive criticism and support is the way to do it. All right. Do not underutilize your professional relationships in the middle of a transition. That is the worst mistake. You can make things so much harder for yourself unnecessarily. All right. So, and that's not what we want to do. That is not what we want to do. Okay. Okay. So that is it. Like I said, I kind of like a little bit of this. We may have to come back and revisit this a little bit. Maybe next week. I have to look and see what next week's topic is. But we're going to come back and probably do a little bit more, especially on that second point there. But I encourage you this week, while some people are kind of getting ready to transition into the holidays. And a lot of people will say, oh, great, this is the time of the year to kind of step down. I'm going to encourage you to, yes, take the time for yourself that you need. Always, always, always. And part of taking that time for what you need is doing that self-evaluation, that self-reflection on where you are professionally so that you can move yourself to where you need to be for the next year. Okay. And that's the work that I do, that I help people with. And I would love to have the opportunity to work with you. So, get on my calendar. Let's talk about it. I want to remind you about some end of the year opportunities that you will see in my feed. So first, it is the Thanksgiving week. And so I encourage you to go check out those Black Friday goodies that I'm going to be tossing out. Get on the email list so that you can get early access to them. They include a template for identifying who should be in your network, something really quick that people can utilize over and over again to help make sure that you've got your network at least foundationally secure. Of course, the 30-day networking consistency challenge is in there, the staple of some of the work that I do, as well as a workshop that I did back in the back in the summer, the Diversifying Your Professional Relationships. This is one of those things that's super important and continues to be. So I'm bringing it back and offering it up during this Black Friday time period. And I'm missing a couple of things, I'm sure, but also do not want to forget our winter workshop that's going to be coming up, where we're going to be working through laying out a plan for yourself moving forward, doing some of the internal work, some of that stuff that we were talking about. We're going to be doing that so that you can get a head start on where it is you want to be for the next year. So, get on that list, go check out the link in my bio. I'll try to remember to drop it here as well, so that you can get access to those goodies for this coming weekend and start investing in yourself for the coming year. And finally, if you know that you're like, yeah, those are great, but I need like some more in-depth stuff, really like more quickly, then for sure let's get on my calendar so that we can look at whether an intensive is good for you before the year is over. I still do have some time on my calendar before we break for the holidays. So if you have any questions, do not hesitate to reach out to me. Love to follow up with you. Take care, and I will see you on Wednesday. Bye everyone. Yay, Jacqueline, let's get connected.